I'm in the middle of working on a king size quilt. So today I'm going to go over and actually show me in action quilting from more of a distance, because what I want to really focus on is posture and how we work at our machine, because I think sometimes some of us go away hurting. And if you do have a medical condition or situation, that may be the case, although you might be able to lighten that. But in general, for those of us who are healthy and can work on that, we should not step away from our machines hurting. Now, in the middle of a king size quilt, it's much more difficult. So I may break that up just in the immediate middle section. But once I'm able to move away just a little bit, I truly do not have pain. Now, I do have a slight little problem that comes with my leg occasionally from an injury because I play tennis and I'm still recovering. So I do adjust things for that, but I'm going to show you the things that are important. And I'm not coming from any type of a salesmanship, because I'm not working for anybody and I don't get anything for this. But I have quilted for quite a bit of time, and I have worked very hard to make sure that I enjoy this and that I'm not hurting. So please stay tuned for that. But at the same time, I also want to show you the quilting itself. So on this quilt, I am doing cross hatching in the horizontal and vertical areas of this quilt, besides a few little feathery types. And the way I figure out is like, how do you come up with the distance of your cross hatching? This is not going to be perfect all the way, but there's so much cross hatching in here, no one will ever see it. So I take the length of the area to be cross hatched and I half it. This was approximately 5 inches, but not every single one was totally the same. So it was a little bit shorter, so I took 5 inches as my guide. I halved it, came up with 2.5, which is obviously still way too long for a crosshatch. And then I halved that again. And then I marked from this seam 1.25 inches. So that's half of the 2.5. 1.25 inches down to here, because this part is going to blend in with a square. And so it might be off, but that you won't see. And so I work that down. So how do I quilt this? I will come down a line all the way down the entire length. Then I will work my way back up. And as I come to a strip of the sashing that I'm going to cross hatch, now I'm working different colors. If I was working the same thread, I would work it into this area, whatever I'm going to do that, but I'm not. That's going to be a different color. So I go beyond that to the next strip once I'm done with this one. But at this point, I will come to this section and I will cross hatch up, stitch over, and cross hatch down. Then I will stitch back over here and I will do the squiggles back up, changing to a manual mode. And I'll talk about that if you do have the Q20. When I get back up, yes, I will stitch back over, make sure I'm right inside there. And then I will do the squiggles. I will use my line tamer coming down and then squiggle back up. So that way I get it on both sides. I'm stitching in the ditch. And when I finish, I'm right here and I can stitch up to the next one. And I'm going to show that in action. Now that will not be in the center of the quilt because I didn't think to do it quick enough. I am going to be on the edge. But then I'm going to go ahead and let me see if I can show you here. I've done with a different color. I've done feathers on this portion of the quilt. And so I will come back in. I've only done half of them. I will come back into the center and show you doing the feathers on there. And it is in the very center. So you will see that it's a little bit more difficult. But sometimes we try to use our whole body when we are quilting. And you might use a little bit more in the center. Take a few little breaks. But out here, as we get further out, it just gets easier and easier. So let's take a look at stitching these out. Before I start stitching, I want to say 2 things about supplies. I have shown a video on my quilt suspension system. That's this little thing here with the clamps. There are many different systems. You can create your own. If you do a large quilt, I would say it is almost imperative to have some type of a suspension system. Now, I'm using a sit-down long arm, but I used a 6-inch throated Janome for many years, and I did a king-size quilt on that Janome that won a purple ribbon at our county fair. So you can do that, but you need something to help you. And I did talk about rotating your machine and putting a table on either side of you, and that will help as well. If anyone has questions about that, I can elaborate again on that. But any type of machine, this will also help you as well. Even if you rotate it, which you probably will need to on a very small throat. But you can, there are different systems that are available. You need something. The other thing you need is a really good chair. Now, this is a Horn sewing chair. Koala also makes them. I will be honest, we all talk about office chairs, and when I'm talking to groups, I'll mention them because we can't always afford something. But if there's one thing that you can really save towards, I totally suggest a high quality chair of some sorts. There's other ergonomic chairs that may work, or sitting areas that may work as well. I totally support these. This type of chair has 3 different settings. I like the middle one because I can raise and lower the actual seat portion, not the height, but the seat, and that can adjust for my leg that I'm still recuperating on. So I can sit at this chair and be totally comfortable for hours quilting, not in the middle of a quilt, but in general. So those are 2 things that I totally believe in. And then the other thing I'll show you as I'm quilting would be your gloves, or what I believe in also is the grippets. Okay, here we go. Okay, so my main goal of this video is to show you more of what it should look like when you're actually sitting at the machine. I do tend to quilt with just socks on because I can really feel the foot pedal. Okay, I've got my quilt set up, the one side all clamped up in there. I could probably do a better job of it, but over on this side here and up as high as I am on this quilt, it's going to stay nicely on it. When I sat down, you can see all of this sitting in my lap. So I'm going to try to lift it up, and you'll see I have a tendency to readjust my quilt constantly. If you have the Bernina Q20, I am doing the crosshatch portion with my stitch regulator number 2 on it, and I use 12 stitches per inch. I'm going to use the line tamer with us. Now I have come down the one side all the way down here with the line tamer, and I'll try, hopefully I can make this not too long or cut sections out to where you can see that I'm going to use that on this other side. So I have that set at 12 stitches per inch. When I do this squiggle portion, I change to the manual mode, and I have that set at 350. So let's go so we can hopefully not make this too awful long. Okay, I'm going to set the white line in the middle of this line tamer right at the intersection of the little mark that I made, and I'm just going to stitch right on over to it. I've already been working on this, so I have my stitches taken care of at the beginning. And then I'm just going to rotate it a little bit and go over to the other side. Often I will go ahead and take 1 stitch when I get over there to make sure it's set to go in the opposite direction. I'll rotate it, and I'm just going to work my way up. When you get up to the top, I take out the line tamer, and you could use it to go across. I can eye it pretty well, so I'm going to just eye it in the seam. I have my laser on, so I can see where I need to be with that, and I can work my way right across. I tend to find it a little bit easier. Then I'm going to work on down again with that line tamer. You can see I adjust all the time. Now let me relax because I'm kind of tense trying to show this. But I'm sitting here in normal mode. My arms, my shoulders aren't humped. My arms aren't going in like this. I am sitting here. I look, make sure I've got it lined up, and I can just go on over to that mark. If it's not totally perfect, people are not going to see it for normal usage. Yes, if you're going to do a show quilt, make it as perfect as you can, and you're good to go. Okay. I've got the whole quilt over here, so I am holding my hand a little bit tighter than I normally would, but not too much. And it seems to only be in one direction. Okay, I'm going to change and go into manual mode. I already have it preset. Take a few stitches up, so I'm up into the middle, and I'm just going to go back and forth. Now remember, it's my hands that are moving. My whole upper torso is not moving. It's just the hands that are moving. They're actually just moving the fabric, and I don't have it with a death grip. Now yes, I am towards the edge of this, but I'm still dealing with quite a bit of fabric, so I'm going to try to get up to the top of this and then come down the other side with the line tamer, so you can see how I'm working in the ditch. Probably going to go on through some of this, and I just make sure that I go up just a bit so that I can work that design in easily. My body is relaxed, so it would probably be much more relaxed if I wasn't working on a video. It is much more relaxed, but this feels good too. If I was really here, let me just keep adjusting until I'm totally comfortable with how I normally would do this. I would actually be sitting here, and it would be even more relaxed. There we go. Oh, that feels much better. My hands barely have a grip on this, much less a death grip. Yes, I'm using my machingers, because I'm going back and forth between the line tamer and free motion, and I don't want to go back and forth with the grippets. Yes, I'm going to go back on this. I'm okay with that. It'll look nice on the back. I don't want to go back and forth with my grippets, but when I go to the feathers on that design, I will go ahead and pull out my grippets, especially in the middle of the quilt. I think they work much, much better. Okay, I'm going to come back down this side. So I'm going to put it back in BSR2, and I'm just going to work my way back down in the ditch. Got a nice long seam down to the start of it. Take out the line tamer, back into manual mode, go up a little bit, and here we go again. All right, now let's take a look at doing those feathers. Okay, now I'm going to work in the middle, right in the middle. Now, when I did the sashing, I'm going horizontal and vertical. I did the entire strip, the entire length. So I had to have a lot more freedom going the direction I was going. And it tends to work better stitching in the ditch if you're going vertical rather than trying to see well horizontal. Is a lot more difficult. So that made it a little bit problematic, mainly just in the middle one. Once I was to the side of it, it got easier, and the next one, I mean, it became very little work at all. But this time now I've changed thread colors. I'm using a green thread in this area, and I'm going to do the feathers in this. So what I've done is I've repositioned my whole quilt, and I've got it pretty much half and half on each side in these clamps so that I can get right into the area that I need to do. And because the way I'm doing it, I am having to break threads to move to each one because I'm changing colors. So every quilt is different on the need that it has. Okay, let's look at this block here and how we would quilt feathers around that. So you can see I did just a simple little plume area here. And this has the thread that she used in it to stitch all this. So I'm going to use that as my spine. I'm not going to go beyond the thread, but up to the thread. And the way I've done that is each of the blocks going in this direction, I've started at a point and I curve around till I'm partly inside of this block. Then I go over my previous stitches, so it's more like the heirloom stitching. And then I go ahead and come up for the next block, and I go right up to this area here. Then from there on, I'm doing irregular long arm feathers and curving around. As I get down to the edge, I let it go natural. So all of these are going to look slightly different, but I'm just curving around and I'm still curving in to this area. I try to bring one right in the middle if I can at this bottom point, and then I continue around until I start getting up to the top. Then as I'm up to maybe an inch, 3/4 of an inch to an inch before this point, I'm looking and figuring, how am I going to make these work? Now, these are probably more slender than any of the others, but I will think, do I want 2 big feathers, or do I want several? Here I did 3. Probably not my favorite one, but it definitely works, and it will work. When you see all of these blocks together, you'll never go around looking and deciding which one you like better than the others. And then my whole goal is so that the very last one I can bend around and touch where I started with this one, using this thread from this block as the spine. So there's the block as a whole. Now I'm going to stitch part of this, but I'm going to stitch it from a distance. If you do feathers, you'll know how to do that. What I want you to see is what I look like when I'm stitching in the middle of the quilt, and you won't see a whole lot of difference. Okay, so I'm not as comfortable when I'm videotaping like this, walking back and forth. So whatever you see me as, I'm a whole lot more comfortable when I'm on my own. Okay, so it's up in both clamps. Here I go again, pulling this out just to give it a little bit more freedom. Okay, and I always have a little bit of a give in the middle here because I've stitched around it but not inside of it, and that will go away. I switched to my grippets because it will give me a whole lot more ability to control this fabric. So I think I have everything ready. And I am going to put it into the BSR1 with, I usually raise it to about between 3 and 350 on that lower number. I always forget what that's called. And then I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to do that curve around so that I can tie back into it. Now I'm going to go very slowly over those stitches if I can. This isn't cooperating because of that, but that's all right. Up and around and back in. Now, see if I can relax like I usually do. So I feel there's just a little bit need to pull a little bit more because I'm right in the middle of this quilt. But that's the only difference. And I am doing feathers, so I'm really curving around. Here's the one right in the point. And then I start looping those feathers back around. I I do not have my grippets held tight. They're still a nice, easy grip. I'm probably bending over just a tiny bit more so that I can see well. My arm's a little bit out because I have extra stuff going on here. So it does tend to go out a little bit more. Okay, now I'm going to look and decide what do I want to do because I want to tie right into where I started. So I'll look at that and plan that out as I'm looking where I'm going and not where I'm at. Here we go, I touched it, back up, stitch over where I started to secure those. And we're done, and I'll let you take a look at that. There we go. There's one block. I hope you found this video helpful. And if you have any questions about how to make things easier, if I don't have the answers, I will find out from anyone that can manage with the muscles and such. But enjoy your quilting. Find out the way to make it so that you do not hurt, if that's possible. And have a great day.